to Talks with the Fellas. This is going to be a recurring series for throughout the course of this school year, and it's going to cover all of our projects. And today we are going to be talking about the film 12 Years a Slave and Harriet Tubman.
All right. Yeah, I think we're going to start with the plot overview, and I guess just like how the movie goes and what happens. And basically, it's based on a true story, but Solomon Northrop, he was a free man. He was taken into slavery. He was drugged by two men, and he was a violin performer. He was really talented, and two men lured him off and drugged him and took him into slavery and basically sold him. So.
Yeah, he was a slave for 12 years, and he eventually got out by sending a letter out to his family, and they got him rescued by proving that he was a free man with his papers. Because when he was sent into slavery, he had no way of proving it because the people that could prove it for him and his papers were gone and they had no idea where he went. And obviously the people that were his masters didn't know either. So they didn't treat him as a free man. He was treated as a slave the entire 12 years.
And then the movie ends with he being reunited with his family and learning more, and that his family has expanded, and that his wife did in fact wait for him this 12 years in slavery. And so Harriet Tubman and Solomon Northrop, they both they helped with the slave boom in different ways. Like they're both abolitionists once they were both freed. Solomon did it through speeches and like rallying people and talking to them, while Harriet Tubman worked as going down into the South and getting people and bringing them back. And they're similar they both worked for the Underground Railroad.
He tried the people that kidnapped him, and they eventually never went to prison, and the dates and events of his death were unknown.
And the reasoning they never went to prison is because at the time it was illegal for a African American man to try and take a white man into court and press charges against him. So he lost all of his attempts failed to bring both his masters and the people who captured him and brought him south. All failed, never got free. Harriet was born into slavery, and that was her whole life until she finally ran away and fled north. Solomon had a life, had a job, had a family, everything as a free man, and was born free, so that was all new to him. It pretty much took him out of his life, brought him into a new one where he had to adapt, change, and overcome everything he was facing. And then he went back to his old life 12 years later and had to try and restart it again and work from there. Versus Harriet, she only had to make one transition, so it was a little bit harder for Solomon in that situation.
We did look through the book a little bit at school, and everything was true about him getting drugged and everything. I mean, he met these two men, and they seemed to be his friends, and he was enjoying their time with them. He appreciated them, and the next thing he knew, he was waking up with chains around him in a underground, musty, like dark room, and he was beaten. And there was one specific scene at the beginning where the first guy that like beat him with a paddle was he was professing that he wasn't a slave, he was a free man. And the guy beat him and kept on asking him if he still thought he was a free man, and Solomon kept on saying he was, and every time he kept on beating him, and that really, really did happen to him. They definitely, gained his trust to an extent that, he trusted them, that he believed that their intentions were good when obviously they weren't. So, and like Trey said, this was happening a lot. There's a lot of black men sold into slavery, and like we discussed in class, there wasn't much they could do about it. There wasn't anything they could do about it. In the movie, Solomon was chained up with just one layer of clothing on, and he said, "I'm a free man," and the man asked for his papers, and obviously he can't give his papers when he's chained up, and drugged and in this room where nobody knows where he is. He just can't prove that he's a free man. And when he got off the boat, he got a new name, Platt, and he never responded to the name Platt. And the white guy was like, "Why aren't you responding?" And he said, "That's not my name." And he said, "You fit this description." And so, I mean, that what I'm trying to say is they just made it happen.
Yeah.
And that he talked about that to his fellow slaves, and they were like, "You can't let anybody know that you're a free man because they won't believe you and they will punish you and torture you."
I felt music played a huge part in
Both
Oh,
of
definitely.
them.
in both of them.
And
Yeah.
everything involving
Yeah.
slavery, honestly.
And especially like in this film, his violin playing, I feel like it like gives him a sense of home in his past life. Even like there are moments in slavery when he's enslaved when he sees the instrument being played and it reminds him of the violin, and then he finally gets to play one. Music kind of brings a sense of community in a place that you really don't feel like a human. Like that's all you have almost is each other, because you're treated like crap. You don't get anything to eat. You're overworked, and all you have is each other at the end of the day. And like in 12 Years a Slave and in Harriet Tubman, like when there's singing, everybody comes together as a community and like sings together. And I mean that's all they really have in slavery and plantations is each other. Music in 12 Years a Slave also it has a negative connotation in one song that was sang by Tidbits, which I'm
Tidbits, not tidbits.
Tidbits. The song that he's saying, I'm not gonna say it, but it like dehumanizes, like I said earlier, it dehumanizes these slaves, and just the whole like the lyrics is just it's awful. It's just treating them like they're nothing. I mean, they're just working.
Yeah.